Mr. Short. The river in front of our hamlet was full of crocodiles. These crocodiles were so intelligent that they avoided suspicious live bait or dead poison animals, so the villagers abandoned the idea of getting rid of them, and we simply learned how to live with them. Along our stretch of the river lived a crocodile, an old-timer, which the villagers named Mr. Short. Mr. Short, before he became short, used his long tail to knock people out of their boats and then proceeded to eat them. Our villagers, when going to the town below, always used small boats, and with a small boat one must travel near the riverbank, standing precariously balanced on the moving boat and pushing the boat with a long bamboo stick. It was very easy to be knocked off the boat by one well-placed smack of a crocodile's tail. Mr. Short had a very simple but ingenious technique for accomplishing this. When a boat passed by his territory, the cunning crocodile struck his head firmly into the mud of the riverbank and knocked the man off his boat with one powerful lash of his tail. Mr. Short was very successful and had managed to eat quite a few people. Villagers going downriver through the territory of Mr. Short could avoid the riverbank by poling out to the middle of the river and then letting the current carry the boat. But when they traveled upriver against the current, they could not avoid poling along the riverbank. It was very difficult to crouch down to avoid the strike of the crocodile and still push the boat against the current with a stick. One day, a young man of our hamlet, Hung, my cousin's friend, was fed up with being terrorized when passing through Mr. Short's territory and decided to do something about it. First, he went to the local blacksmith and asked him to forge a very long and sharp knife. During the next few days, with the help of my cousin, Hung spent hours practicing with his new knife. He lay on his back holding his long knife in both hands and asked my cousin to swing at a gourd hanging over his head with a long branch of a banana tree. When Hung was skilled enough to cut the banana leaf every time it passed overhead, he next made a dummy of a standing man with a pole in his hands. At sundown, Hung and my cousin put the dummy on his boat and traveled to the area where Mr. Short plied his trade. It was twilight when they got there. Hung lay on his back, facing the standing dummy, and my cousin, holding the other knife, hid at the other end of the little boat. They let the boat slide downriver, very close to the riverbank where Mr. Short usually waited in ambush. In the twilight, Mr. Short did not see clearly and mistook the dummy for a real person. The crocodile struck at the dummy with a powerful sideways blow of his tail, and at that very moment, Hung swung at the tail with his long knife. He succeeded in cutting off a big portion, which fell into the boat, where it wriggled comically. After that, Mr. Short stopped attacking people, but he lived on for many years, feeding on animals that came to drink at the river. Once in a while, people saw him crawling awkwardly into the river, a crocodile with a little tail growing out of the stump of a big tail.